Hey guys, so it's me Alexis and welcome to my astrology channel, and today I'm going to be continuing the series Astro Controversies, a series where I talk about various controversial topics in astrology. And today's topic is going to be mental illness in astrology. So before I start the video, if you guys like my stuff, go ahead and subscribe, and if you guys haven't been in the loop, I am starting a new series about the moon signs, and that's going to be really catered to beginners. So yeah, I think that's all my announcements. Let's go ahead and start the video. Now, the reason why I think mental illness in astrology is so controversial is because if you separate the two issues, they're both pretty controversial. Like, we got mental illness, that's controversial on itself, and then we have astrology. That's also very controversial. And when you put them together, that's like double controversy, double conflict, double debate. Ugh. It would make complete sense for mental illness plus astrology to be quite controversial, because when you separate the two, it's still controversial. When it comes to mental illness, there's so many spectrums on mental illnesses. We have a grand spectrum of perspectives. I know people who don't believe in mental illness. I know people who take it very seriously. And with that being said, with so many perspectives, there's going to be a lot of conflict. And same goes for astrology. We have so many people practicing different branches, so many people with different philosophies, different ways of practicing, consulting. Whoa, it's a big mess. So I'm going to try to kind of dissect what's going on, and then I'm going to share my perspective. Feel free to comment below if you guys have your own personal thoughts about this, because the goal of these videos is to not only help you formulate your own thoughts, but to also start a conversation. So yeah, let's go ahead and kind of dissect the two sides here. Now we got the first side, and this side is going to be the side that would support mental illness in astrology. These are the people that are going to say, yes, when it comes to astrology, you can find mental illnesses. And then we have the other side right over here that would say, no, you can't find mental illnesses in astrology. That's not cool, and that's kind of offensive. Don't do that. And then there's kind of people in the middle where it's kind of like, you can find something, but I don't know if we should say it's mental illness or not. The main question that is behind this issue is, how much can we really find with astrology? And I think for people on this side, they would say that yes, you can find pretty much everything with astrology, and if you can find everything, mental illness is part of that. It's part of that package. And then there's people on the other end that's kind of like, no, astrology can only find so much, and because of that, we can't find mental illness. And then the people in the middle here are just kind of like, I don't know what we can find with astrology. We don't know what we can exactly find. And because of that, I don't really know if we should really state that we can find mental illness or not. It's just kind of like, I'm going to be sharing my personal view. I think I would say I'm in the middle camp here. The middle camp that's kind of like, yeah, you can probably find something with astrology, but I'm kind of hesitant when it comes to mental illnesses, because it is in my understanding that mental illnesses, well, some of them at least, a lot of them are kind of caused by the environment. Environmental issues is a contributing factor to mental illnesses. There's so many factors outside the natal chart that can cause mental illnesses. And because of that, I really would say that, astrology is kind of limited in a sense, just because I do view the natal chart to be more nature-based rather than nurture-based. So if you guys know the whole, debate about nature versus nurture, I would say that astrology would support the nature side. And I would say that mental illness, is kind of like the mix of the two. Even I wouldn't really know. I want to say that I really don't know everything about mental illness, and I also really don't know everything about astrology. This is very much a personal view. If I'm missing something, please feel free to educate me and kind of, inform me about anything I might be wrong on, because the last thing I want to do is to be offensive. I would say that astrology can really only correlate. I only see the natal chart to be potentials, and whether we can act on those potentials or not, that really depends on us and depends on a whole bunch of other things. So for example, I think one common indicator that a lot of people would say points to depression would be like very hard Moon-Saturn aspects. Because when your moon is not really aspecting well to Saturn, it really kind of, you know, chokes up your feelings. You can struggle to express your emotions. Now, can a person with depression struggle to express their emotions? Sure. But does everyone with a moon, you know, Saturn aspect, does everyone with that aspect have depression? No. My personal view when it comes to mental illness and astrology is that mental illness is quite complicated. And until we fully flesh out how complicated mental illness can be, we can't really do anything with astrology with it. So I'm just kind of like in the middle camp here. I do feel like it's very disrespectful when you go up to someone and be like, oh, I'm looking at your chart, I think you're gonna have depression, or oh, here's this little configuration here, I think you're bipolar. Like, no. The point of astrology is to use the stars to enhance your understanding of someone, not distort it. And I feel like to just look at natal charts and just spew out a bunch of disrespectful, closed-minded things is completely against what astrology is all about. I would say that if astrology has to do anything with mental illness, astrology can only show correlations. And, you know, if there's anything that I think is pretty true, correlation does not equal to causation. Just because there's a correlation in the chart doesn't mean it'll cause something to happen. Just because you have this aspect doesn't automatically mean you're gonna have depression. Just because you have your planet in this sign, it doesn't mean that you're gonna have a certain mental illness. Like, that's not the way to go. However, if you do have a certain mental illness and you kind of want to see where it could be coming from, you could look at the natal chart and be like, oh, there are some elements in my chart where I'm struggling, and it just so happened that it manifested as a mental illness. Don't use astrology to distort your understanding of someone else. Don't use astrology to disrespect someone. And when it comes to mental illness, that's a really big rule. And I think that's pretty much my view when it comes to mental illness and astrology. I will say that astrology can give you information, but, you know, be respectful with that information. Be smart with that information. Because astrology will give us the picture. It's up to us to interpret that picture. And if you're not doing it respectfully, then So, yeah, that's pretty much my take on mental illness and astrology. Comment below and kind of start a conversation with me. What are your thoughts about mental illness and astrology? Is it something that people should be looking for? Is it respectful? Is it bad? Like, well, what is it? And how's your view compared to my view? Do you agree with my view? Do you disagree with my view? Like, what's going on? So, yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching my video, and I will see you guys next week. Hopefully.